What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the 5th studio album by North Carolina born and bred rapper J. Cole. Fellow North Carolinian, I like to see that blowing up in the mainstream. This new record is called KOD, which is an acronym for 3 different things: Kids on Drugs, Kill Our Demons, and King Overdosed. And all of these themes and meanings deeply tie into the rooted feel of this record because it does talk about things like addiction, overdose, dependence, and how we deal with these things. And it opens up in what I feel is similar fashion to Kendrick Lamar's now classic album To Pimp a Butterfly. If you recall on that record, Kendrick used kind of a narrative as he went between tracks, and he used the recurring themes where he would build upon them. I remember the evils of Lucy were all around me, he would say, and things like that. And it's not that J. Cole is saying the exact same thing by any means, it just reminds me of that because a voice comes on, a female perspective here, and talks about how at birth we only have 2 real emotions and ways of conveying things, and then we feel the pain, and then throughout life we deal with this pain. And then as the record unfolds, Cole begins to really explain where he comes from, how he's dealt with his own vices in the past, how he's seen it tear apart family members, including his own mother, which the Once an Addict interlude definitely really tugs at the heartstrings there. That's one that I really got into emotions because even his flow on that track, you can almost hear the hurt in his voice as he wanted to look out for his mom and he also wanted to get away, and I think that he just got caught somewhere in the middle. This is J. Cole's 3rd studio album in a row that features no guests. There's no other rappers on this, and no, Kill Edward is not a featured guest. That's actually J. Cole's alternate persona if you haven't figured it out at this point. Having gone double platinum with 2014 Forest Hills Drive and then platinum with For Your Eyes Only, 2 very solid records that I reviewed and really did enjoy, it's no surprise that he's following this up once again, and I think that almost like the Kill Edward feature thing, that was almost like to throw people off a little bit because on the title track KOD, he literally talks about not needing other people on his tracks. They're not worthy of his shit, as he puts it. And while that can come off maybe a little bit pretentious, I guess at the same time, I mean, you got to brag about something, right? Even though there aren't any featured guests on this project, there are plenty of samples. I already told you about the female voice that kind of opens up the record and then you hear it at the start and the beginning and the end of some of these tracks that pop up throughout as little reminders about how we cope with the pain or how we deal with something, and a little reminder. And I guess in places it can get a little bit preachy, but overall I understand the vibe. And the album artwork for this, it's a little bit ludicrous, it's a little bit ridiculous, it's a little bit too much, I feel like, and it even says on the album art, this is not in any way meant to glorify addiction. I really do understand and appreciate what he's going after here because so many people, new rappers and that sort of thing especially, seem to glorify this lean addiction or the codeine mixed with the drugs and the cocaine and everything else. All of the drugs, the women, and the alcohol that comes with the lifestyle of being a so-called rapper or having to fit in and that sort of thing. I get what he's going for, but like I said before, it can feel just a bit pretentious and a little bit too much in places, especially just reaching with the album art, but fortunately, obviously, that has no impact on the quality of the music. The album definitely starts off great. I like the intro that builds up suspense for exactly what's gonna come, and then we get into the title track, KOD, which is so damn catchy. I love the pumping bass and just the melody of that track overall, and just how much confidence J. Cole exudes on this one. The way that he comes across, it's almost kind of like a lighthearted tune that puts you in kind of an amped up mood. You understand where he's coming from, and you get behind his mindset. And then after that, we move into Photograph, which I find to be a very interesting commentary track, talking about how sometimes you will fall in love in the age of Instagram, Facebook, social media in general. You see something, you see a girl or something, and you like, and you fall in love, perhaps, and then it turns out to maybe not be exactly what you expected. So it's an interesting commentary tune, and I do dig the vibe of that one. It feels a little bit more soulful. In general, this record and the way that it's produced and the way that J. Cole himself produced the majority of this record, it definitely feels like it's not trying to follow trends by any means. In fact, he's still kind of out here carving out his own lane, taking influences from 90s hip-hop, early 2000s, and even his own unique style. I can totally see why ATM was chosen as a single. That track is absolute fire. I love how that one starts off, stacking up the money, stacking up the cash, and then it has a little bit of a change up towards the end of the track, but there's so much fire that comes before that. The cool down is much needed, expected, and great before we get into the track Motivate, which features a shout out to Green Day, so you know I always appreciate that. Getting the bread like he's Green Day. That means that there's lots of money at stake, and J. Cole's definitely stacking up, so is Green Day, and so are a lot of people these days, not me. Motivate definitely feels more playful than a lot of these tracks because J. Cole brings in his personality. He's able to really differentiate himself and the storyline of the album and Addiction, and I feel like some of this is talking about past experiences once again, because as most of us know, J. Cole has been marijuana-free since 2011, so a lot of these stories do seem to be older, but on this track in particular, I love the sample of Knuck If You Buck. That's actually been used in a couple of popular hip-hop songs, and I feel like that this one could definitely be another one that leaves fans wanting even more like this from Cole in the future. I think it's worth discussing the Kill Edward features that pop up on this record because it is his alter ego, and you see him on the Cutoff and also on the track Friends, and both of those definitely have their moments. I would say that the Cutoff gets a little bit too standard in places, almost like a little bit safe, and like I've heard it before, it's like everybody talking about having to cut somebody off because either the fame or you blew up and everybody wanted something from you. I just feel like I've been hearing that maybe just too much personally lately, and I didn't click with the instrumental. The overall vibe of the song was like a little bit different than Photograph coming off of that. It just didn't feel like it shifted. Maybe on its own it's a better track, but still. Overall, the Kill Edward persona I feel like is used when he's trying to convey something more negative, and that explains kind of the pitch shifted voice. I think people have already unfortunately been comparing it to Blurry Face and the way that on the 21 Pilots album it was used by Tyler Joseph to really display his demons, so to speak, or the negative persona in his life. And while musically I am by no means putting them in the same playing field, I guess I can get what people are saying by someone just kind of shifting a voice to make it be a darker persona for him. And J. Cole comes through with this one as his Kill Edward when he gets into those negative feelings, or if he wants to lean on that addiction like a crutch or something like that. And he uses it again smartly and wisely on the track Friends, which is absolutely one of the best tracks here. And that one I feel like kind of takes the topics that he was talking about on the Cutoff, but personifies them in a much better and more clear way. And with the instrumental that goes along with it, this track is a banger, and you don't even feel it zipping by. It's a longer tune, but still one that leaves an impression on your mind quickly. The Window Pane outro definitely has a lot of emotion packed in there, and it just kind of affected me because there's a little child that comes on the track here talking about the violence and the gunshots and the wounds and the people killed around her at such a young age, and she's able to speak about it, and she's really opening up and trying to say why these things happen. And it just got to me because it is the innocence of a child's eyes, and it takes you back to those days when maybe you felt the same way, or you maybe had a better perspective or grip on things. And I think that J. Cole here really got into that mindset because he's been spending a lot of time in his home city of Fayetteville, North Carolina, with the people connecting there. And here he seems to come through, let her speak her mind, and then kind of raps about saying, how could I ever forget you, after the girl said, please don't forget me. How could I forget you when you've been through more in your little short life here than I've probably ever experienced, and I'm a grown man. The slow slurring beat and the kicking drums that almost feel like they have a bit of a pause and delay to them really build the atmosphere on Window Pane, and they set the tone for the way that J. Cole comes across, wanting these things in life that don't always happen, because unfortunately life gets violent, it gets tricky, it gets complicated, and he raps about that throughout this record. But here I think he gets things kind of concise, quick, to the point, and he's able to explain himself really, really well. Instantly, the title Kevin's Heart stood out to me because automatically your mind goes to, oh, that's a play on words for Kevin Hart, the comedian that's really all over the place, and he did make headlines for having cheated on his wife that was pregnant with their child. I think that was last fall, and J. Cole is bringing it up again here and kind of wrapping it seems from Kevin Hart's perspective. And that kind of tells you a lot about J. Cole's mindset because he's talking about not just addictions in the sense of maybe, I don't know, drugs or alcohol. Also, it can be like lust and all of these other things that catch your eye that go along with the fame. And it feels like here, as he raps from that perspective, things do get a little bit more playful. And if you're just listening to it at surface level, then you're gonna think, oh, he's just out here, you know, rapping about things. It's got a nice kind of catchy beat that really just kind of goes all throughout. But the fact that it's unwavering in the sense that it is giving you a narrative from somebody else's point of view is really what hooks me on this track, because like I said, at surface level, you could take it for what it is. It's kind of a catchy tune with some nice lyrics about having fun, going out, doing your own thing. But once you boil it down, you really get the story of Kevin Hart and maybe what exactly happened there without directly and explicitly saying it. Things definitely get sluggish on this record, unfortunately, in places. Even on some of the tracks that I really do like, they just don't exactly pop off in the way that I would expect them to, with J. Cole's flow feeling maybe a little bit sleepy, or a lot of pitch shifting done. I mean, there's places even when he's not using the Kill Edward persona that he does use kind of the vocal manipulations. And that's fine, I just feel like he took it a bit overboard, and sometimes the tracks and the production just feel a little hazy, a little bit too hazy for what he was going for on some of the tracks, and it just kind of brings down the overall enjoyment. And one of the tracks that I have to highlight as being one of my least favorites, unfortunately, is Brackets. I could see why a lot of people are drawn to this tune, but honestly, J. Cole just kind of out of nowhere seemingly talking about just the way that things are handled with money, taxes being taken. Obviously, he's talking about tax brackets here. It just feels a little bit kind of hard to relate to in places because he's talking about stacking up caches and then other people taking them, aka the government and the people in control. It's interesting commentary, but for me, it goes on a bit too long, as this is one of the longest tracks on the entire LP. That leaves only one final song for me to talk about, the final song on the album, 1985, Intro to the Fall Off. And boy, if he drops the Fall Off this year, his next studio album, then people are gonna be losing their shit more than they already are. And on this one, I do want to talk about this one because it has a lot of bold statements packed in there, and I think that there's a lot to decipher. And I would be very, very excited if he continues this theme and just kind of talking about rap in its current state on his next record. And if this is any sign, he's kind of calling out like Lil Pump, obviously Smoke Perp, all these other rappers that have kind of called him out, especially Lil Pump, kind of just trolling around with him, calling, you know, out for fuck J. Cole and stuff like that. It just seems absolutely stupid. And if you know anything about me, I hate so many of these young, dumb rappers that are just doing nothing for the rap game other than making themselves look like idiots. And Lil Pump has no music in his discography that I enjoy whatsoever. Just gonna put that out there. And then Lil Pump comes through and disses J. Cole, and then J. Cole gives a very smart rebuttal without explicitly saying his name. You know, obviously he's like, I'm fucking with your funky little rap name or whatever, you know, making fun of the lil that everybody puts in front of things. And I think what he's saying here is basically watch out, because the fame's not gonna last forever. And what got you popular in the first place, aka a viral trend, you're following trends, that's not gonna matter to people when they grow up in 5 years. There's a reason that people are still riding with me, because I'm making good music that people still love, and that's obviously true, considering already KOD, the title track from this very record, broke Spotify records, 4.2 million streams in its very first day. Overall, another solid project from J. Cole that does have uneven flows in places. Some of the tracks definitely grow stale, and I find myself disinterested in them. And even though this record is only 42 minutes, it's unfortunate that it does feel longer than his past 2 albums, and I'm not exactly sure how that happened. So I have to say, it's a little bit of a step down in quality, but still, it definitely grew on me a lot. Definitely give this some repeated listens, let it sink in, because initially, I probably would have rated this lower, but right now, I'm gonna give this a solid 3.5 out of 5. I want to know what you guys think though. Sound off in the comment section down below. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, if you want to see more hip hop videos on this channel, and obviously subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the bell so that you get notifications. If you're able to support what I do on Patreon, you can tap this little annotation in the corner of your screen, or else at the top link down below. It helps videos keep coming on both of my channels on a monthly basis. We're getting so close to 100K, so thank you so much for subscribing. If you want to see a couple of recent videos, including my last J. Cole review right over there, all of my socials in the description, and I'll see you soon on ARTV.